How are we all going? Is anybody even joining me this evening in the void? How are we? How are we all doing? Are we here for book club? Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. I wasn't gonna post this on socials, but everyone seems to have forgotten we had plans this evening in the book club. So I'm on here, talking to myself as usual. It's fine. And honestly, I had a video I wanted us to watch, and I also wanted to do some changing of some layouts, you know, particularly this layout that we're looking at right now. Now, here we go. Here we go. So, I am trying to work out if there is a way. I want a way that I can stream. I'll figure it out. I'm having a bit of a hard time figuring anything out right now, but I will figure it out. That's the main point. Here we go. Oh, hi. Oh, hi. Now I have to change. Oh, we're back to just chatting. Excellent. I've got to make sure that the settings are all fixed. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. And go. Perfect. All right. Everything's live. Everything's working. Checks are all done. Fantastic. How is everyone going this fine evening? Now, we have been in our book club talking about a particular lovely book that is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Martinez, which I happen to think is one of the best novels of all time, personally. It is one of my favorites. So I picked this book to start off with, obviously. I would say most of the people who are not here because they have not read the book. But I did say that we wouldn't necessarily actually be talking about the book because I did feel like that would be the case. So instead, I'm just going to be setting up all of the book club stuff because, no one's flipping read it, did they? Did they? Of course no one read it. Of course no one read it. And everyone was all like gung-ho as well. And now here I am, all by my lonesome, twiddling my thumbs. It's fine. All right. Now, oh. I just bit on a tooth and it hurt. I hope I'm not getting a hole. That would not be good. Do not need that kind of stress in my life. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. No, thank you. So, I am going to put, we're going to talk about this lovely book. Though, I mean, I'm going to give it another half an hour, and if no one else from book club comes, I quit. That's all right. Yeah. What is this book all about? I need someone else to do the summary of the book, though. Oh, ahoy! Ahoy, ahoy. I was just talking about the fact that everyone seems to have forgotten it was book club. It's alright. I had the chat open here, there, and everywhere just in case. Just in case. Got on your trip over there. Over where? Over here? Have you got something to tell me? Over to the void, yes. You're cool and fine and really I'm all you need. That is correct. That is correct. Really, there was no question there. Like, we're all good. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? Excellent. All right. So, I was going to put on one of the older... We should. That is definitely something that we should look into. Transport's obviously going to be the main issue. That's... Oh, YouTube music. They finally have a little... Excellent. Oh, why have I got 2 streams? That's annoying. Okay, whatever. It's fine. What did I come on here to find? Someone remind me. I'm sure between our 2 big brains we can think of something. We have 2 of the biggest brains. Oh, hey! It's Georgie. Hello. Welcome back to the void. We're talking book club this evening. Now, you are just in time for book club. Either or. I was going to be doing it just on the Discord, but then no one showed up and I went, okay. I need some oysters. Oh, thanks, Georgie. I'm glad that I'm live too. We are, yes, so glad you made it. So I'm going to pull up the Green Brothers summary literature review of our book club book to sort of give us a little bit of background about this one, I guess. I just feel like it's one of those things where if you get a bit of background going into it, you find it a bit easy to discuss a text. You know what I mean? We do have emotes now. It's pretty cool. It's pretty exciting. I'm pretty hyped up about it. Just saying, the emotes. So, I'm going to play the video. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. Thank you. Crash course. Literature. That's what I was looking for. Crash course literature. Yes. Playlists. All right, let me have a quick look. Now, where are we? Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Oh, it's true. Oh, did you do that, Emery? Of course you did. Good and proper. Good and proper. Where is it? I should have, do you know what? I should have done it and got it all lined up. Here we go. Should have got it all lined up before, here we are, part 1, 100 Years of Solitude. Got it all lined up before you guys got here. No! No! Stop playing, John Green. Emery has that effect on people. Emery has that effect on people. I am going to fix this up while we watch this video too. I feel like sometimes I use these the same way teacher does in class. I'm just going to show you a quick video while I get the rest of the lesson plan sorted for the day, kids. No, it's true, Emery. You do have that effect on people.
Hi, I'm John Green. This is Crash Course Literature,
How's
and you and I are
sound?
about to experience 100 years of solitude
How's
together.
that
I
sound,
guess, which
guys?
isn't really solitude.
Mr. Green, no, I don't get it. You know, there's so many things that happen in that book that, like, can't happen.
Indeed, me from the past. That's the kind of searing revelation I've come to expect from you.
Excellent.
But there's a reason William Kennedy in the New York Times Book Review called 100 Years of Solitude the first piece of literature since the Book of Genesis that should be required reading for the entire human race. Which I have to say is a bit hyperbolic, both toward 100 Years of Solitude and toward the Book of Genesis. And then there's the Chilean poet and Nobel laureate Pablo Neruda, who...
Okay. I just realized what the screen looks like. Sorry about that, guys. Give me a sec. What's going on? Excellent. Yeah, I don't know if Genesis should be required reading. No, absolutely not. But for someone with his particular point of view to be saying that, I can understand why, you know, I don't know. Monday. Oh, gosh. Edit. I can't even tell you guys how frustrating this is every time I come on here. I will, eventually I'm not going to have to do these though, because I'm going to have them smooshed out. Smooshed out? Smushied out. Smushied out. I don't know. Here we go. Save. Book club, I'm just going to call it for now. Here we go. Yeah, there's some, I thought it was on purpose. There is some fucked up shit in Genesis. Agreed. Shall we continue?
called it the greatest revelation in the Spanish language since Don Quixote of Cervantes. This novel is a work of magic.
I do love this
and
novel,
not just
though.
because there's lots of magic in it.
So just...
Hi, I'm John Green.
Sorry,
This
I
is Crash
didn't mean to
Course
do
Literature,
that.
and you and I are
Again.
about to experience...
I'll just mute that for a second while I talk about this quickly. Is everybody familiar with magical realism as a literary sort of genre? So, like, you've got realism in terms of, like, you know, realism is when it's, like, really gritty and they want to show the really up close and personal and, like, in focus aspects of life. It's what we think about when realism. But magical realism is almost the opposite. It's almost magic that is never explained. It's the idea that it's just accepted. Like, life is just, there's no person who things are being explained to. And it's not, the idea isn't that you are in a fantasy world. Like, the idea is that this is just the world. It's just that the world has these magical elements to it. But it's not like, you know, witches and wizards sort of magic. It's just like, you know, the idea that there was an apple tree in my grandma's backyard that never failed to produce apples, like, no matter what the season was, or like the movie Chocolat, or like, it's very, very prominent in, particularly in Spanish literature. No, not like the Turkish Shinobi name books. More like, you know, more like Chocolat or, has anyone seen, Jane the Virgin? Have you seen Jane the Virgin? It's almost just like it's just there are aspects that are magical that are like accepted almost. Yeah. Like the fantastical. Let me find up a Wikipedia summary of it and see if Wikipedia is going to do a better job of explaining this than me, because I'm clearly struggling here. Here we go. But that is what 1,000 Years of Solitude falls into. And I love magical realism because it's one of those things that you kind of don't even realize sometimes that some of the things that you're reading have this magical realism element to it. Like, you know, the flowers that fell like snow until they covered the entire town. That's one of the things that happens in... Yeah. Well, Jane the Virgin is a Spanish sort of television show that also employs that, which is why I thought of that one. But yeah, it's like the magic that just everyone accepts, like it's a part of. So here we go. So yeah, it presents a realistic view of the world while incorporating magical elements, often blurring the lines between fantasy and reality. Refers to literature in particular with magical or supernatural phenomena presented in an otherwise real world or mundane setting. Like the idea that, you know, there's a town that, like as I was saying before, you know, Graham's apple tree produce apples every year, no matter what happened, no matter what the season, da-da-da. It's like there's this fantastical, magical element to it in an otherwise mundane world. It's just Gran had a magical apple tree in her backyard and we all just kind of accept it as part of life. You know? Yeah. I really love it in literature because it asks you to accept the fantastical without criticism. Like, it asks you to just accept the fantastical without criticism. In a way, I feel like the Bible does. Like, it's the only... It kind of has that same effect. I guess maybe that's why he compared it to the Bible. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So it is often used as well, but, you know, realistic settings is invaded by something that's too strange to believe, but it's often used in retrospective work. So often we're talking about people who are reflecting on their lives. And so it's also got this idea of the distortion of memory playing a part in it, you know? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But in ways, yeah. Kind of like, I suppose, if aliens came down and they saw that we could swim and we just float, and they were like, this is magic, and we went, it's not, it's physics, and they were like, no, this is magic. Okay. So yeah, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, sorry. Not Martinez, I've been calling him the wrong name all week. How embarrassing is that? Is actually very well known for this magical realism that he uses. And it's often used in ways that are... I find it really interesting anyway, in some of the ways that he uses it, because, for example, in one scene in the book, not to give anything away, but two different characters are reflecting on a scene that happened. One is a young man who is still a young man. One is an old man who was a child when the event happened. And they're both here discussing it. The young man who's 30 was 30 when it happened. The boy who was a child, like 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever when it happened, is now an old man. Both recounting the event with, you know, the old man talking about it through the lens of a child who's also got the history of reflection, being able to... Yeah. And so he's sort of reflecting on that story with all of that understanding and all of that context built into it, while the young man is recounting it from the perspective of someone who was there and experienced it as an adult and is now recounting it in the aftermath, like how that affects him in the short term. So both of these characters recounting this story at the same time, but you're being given both perspectives of someone who was young when it happened and has had a long time to reflect, and also of someone who was an adult when it happened, who is dealing with it in the direct aftermath, and they're dealing with it at the same time. Yeah, it is really, really interesting. And there's a lot of different elements of that within the novels that I find really, like, you know, you can think of things like magical realism as, like, you know, the matchstick girl who lit up the matches that allowed them to see into other people's windows and stuff like that, but not necessarily. But you know what I mean? Like, it, yeah, anyway. Yeah, adult perspective and memory of it, but none of the processing time. Yeah. Child memory and context with longer period of reflection and processing. And the middle-aged person was in the immediate aftermath. Yeah. This is 100 Years of Solitude, Georgie, which is the book that we are reading for this month. So this is our little interim book club for that. And we will be reading the rest of it for next week. Yeah. So, and Gabriel Garcia Marquez uses time a lot in his work. Time plays a really big part in his work as well. Okay, let's play the rest of this video quickly. Oh, what you're snacking on? I have got some oysters.
This novel is a
$1.50 from Aldi. So I got some oysters and crackers.
work of magic, and not just because there's lots of magic in it.
Yeah. I will agree. Oysters, I know. Spoiling myself with tinned oysters. This is a pretty
So
impressive
Gabriel
book.
Garcia Marquez sets his novel in the fictional Colombian town of Macondo, founded by the illustrious and inbred Buendia family. From its inception, Macondo is cut off from the external world. Gypsies passing through introduce fabulous inventions from the outside, including telescopes, false teeth, flying carpets, and ice. And the novel relates the history of the town's founding.
So if anyone has actually started reading it yet and knows about this, have gotten this far into the book, when they're describing... This is one of the things that are sort of one of the more fantastical elements to the novel. When they try and get out of the jungle to find civilization, there's this huge big trek and it's this huge big, and it's like, wow, oh my goodness, and it's like this big and massive deal. But these gypsies that travel and visit the town all the bloody time, and they're all just always just like, oh yeah, well, it's easy for us to travel, but you guys, like, it's just this whole... It does a really good job of showing that for people who... You know, there's almost this trauma or whatever. Like, it's almost... It's Encanto before Encanto even had a chance to breathe this novel, honestly. Because that trauma of closing yourself off in that sort of town, the way the family do in Encanto, that's kind of what this family do. And the idea that the gypsies are... I shouldn't say gypsies, that's a terrible... Sorry. It's the terminology used in the book. I need to not do that. So the travelers, when they come through, they have no problem moving, but they constantly acknowledge... oh no, that's no worries. Don't worry at all, Georgie. They constantly acknowledge that it's much harder for the guys from the town to travel than it is for them to travel. You know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely. Happy you made it. Thanks for coming back.
Jose Arcadio Buendia and Ursula Iguaran, and 6 generations of their descendants. It chronicles the lives and loves of these Buendias as they endure civic uprisings and civil wars, invasions from ants and North Americans, strikes, massacres, plagues, and perhaps most devastatingly, their own tragic nostalgia. And this is also one of those families who uses the same names over and over, which can be a little bit confusing for readers, and it doesn't help clear things up that the characters also share personality.
The thing I found about this, though, with the sharing of the names, I found it another really great tactic for, like, the time dilation that he does in the book. Like, I thought the sharing of names really helped because it spreads that time dilation out over generations when... the grandson has the same name as what the grandfather did. You know what I mean? Like, it plays with that idea of time and change throughout the whole novel, and the reusing of the names plays into that a little bit as well. I don't know, maybe I sound like a twit, you know?
Traits. The Aurelianos tend to be withdrawn but with lucid minds, while the Jose Arcadios tend to be impulsive and enterprising. This repetition of names and traits gets at an important idea in the book, which is that the boundaries of individual identity can be unclear. Like, these characters are repeating their ancestors' mistakes.
I don't think it's just about just repeating the ancestors' mistakes over and over. I also think it shows about intergenerational trauma and the ways that is passed down, the way that a name is passed down. Because, you know, they're responding. You can kind of see the you can see how the response is almost like a pushing back on, like, you know what I mean? Like, it yeah, in the same way that they have the same sort of characteristics and share those, they share their names. It gives that idea of the passing down the names and the traits and the trauma, and this is why we never leave this town, you know, as well. Like, it just, yeah, feeds into all of those ideas, I think, as well. There are so many layers to this book.
Which suggests that human nature may not change much over time. 100 Years of Solitude is also a masterpiece of experimental fiction because it blends the imaginary and the magical to present perspectives that are often missing from written history. Gabriel Garcia Marquez took voices and storytelling traditions that traditionally hadn't been associated with great art and showed that they could be awfully great. But speaking of magic and time, Garcia Marquez jumps around in time a lot in the book, starting with the very first sentence. Many years later, as he faced the firing squad, Colonel Aureliano Buendia was to remember that distant afternoon when his father took him to discover ice. So there are a lot of different times in that sentence, right? I mean, Garcia Marquez is describing the Colonel's future.
Yeah, that's, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Cycles on and on. Absolutely cycles on and on. For sure, for sure. And that idea about the cyclical nature of things also plays a part in the novel. Like, as much as things change, as much as they stay the same. You know, like when his gypsy friend dies and the gypsies come back, but his gypsy friend dies, and he takes that as like a big, I'm going to go out and I'm going to see the world. And it's like, Anyway.
Act of remembering as having already taken place. And just like a map maker represents disparate spaces as seen from a single vantage point, Gabriel Garcia Marquez is showing the reader the past, the present, and the future simultaneously. Later, this will happen again and again in the novel.
Yeah.
In fact, if you want to keep score, the phrase many years later appears 9 times in the English translation. Its truncated version, years later, appears 11 times. Months later, 14 times. Weeks later, 5. Days later, 13. Hours later, 2. Minutes later, 1. And later on its own, 83 times. And Garcia Marquez...
Wow. Okay. I know that books use the G slur, and how are we feeling about... Yeah, I think we should try and avoid using it. I just think it's disrespectful to not. And I have slipped up by saying it. And I just slipped up by saying it again, didn't I? Far out. I keep saying it. It's really hard too when you've been listening to it being said. Do you know what I mean? And then you're like repeating it. It's like that monkey see, monkey do. Ah. Curse me and my bloody ADHD brain that holds on to facts for like 5 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. So, no, when his traveller friend dies, I should say traveller, and he uses it, you know, But yeah, the idea of that, the past, present, and future being presented all at once. In that scenario I was talking about earlier, with the old man and the young man recounting the same event, one recounting it from when he was a small child, the other recounting it as though it happened yesterday. That's exactly that same thing. That's the past. Because that young man, again, has the ability, if he didn't take the option he chooses to take in the end in the book, that could become his future. He could be looking back on it as an old man with time and space and distance. You know, that could be his future. That is an option for his future. Then the more you think about it as you're reading the book as well, the more beautiful the intentionality of a lot of Gabriel Garcia Marquez's decisions in writing it are as well. I keep
Marquez follows
stumbling
each of
tonight
these
on my
laters
words.
with a scene that his narrator recounts while using the past tense. And this doesn't just emphasize the connection between past, present, and future. It undermines the ideas that linear narratives are the only narratives that make sense. In that opening line, it'd be logical to assume that the Colonel remembered discovering ice right before he was shot and killed, but spoiler alert, that doesn't happen. So much for foreshadowing. Now, I realize that so far we've only discussed the first sentence of the book, but if I could just pause on it for one more moment. It also reveals another big theme of the novel, how
You not got
individual
away through it. That's all right.
perspectives influence the idea of history. Let me just read it one more time, because
There's two parts to their breakdown of it, so we're only going to listen to the first part tonight anyway, and in a couple of weeks' time, once everyone's read it, we'll listen to the other part. What is the novel, you mean? Do you mean is the novel playing into that idea? The characterization? No. It's definitely not from that perspective at all. It's more from the perspective of the way tradition and family and history can trap us. I feel like anyway, more than the idea of any individual. Like again, individual identity isn't really that important to the work, as that the identity really comes from them as a collective. Because even that guy who starts out the video when he's saying he remembers the day that his father took him to discover ice, the next the next couple of chapters of the book are about his father. I'm pretty sure. Like, it's not, it skips around a lot. Like, it's, yeah. I don't know, but it's fun for all that. I love it. I do love this.
Thought Cafe made that nice graphic, and also it just has a nice sound to it. Many years later, as he faced the firing squad, Colonel Aureliano Buendia was to remember that distant afternoon when his father took him to discover ice. Discover is a funny word there. I mean, I guess discover can mean become aware of, but we often use it to mean, be the first to find or observe. The Colonel no more discovered ice than Columbus discovered America.
Yeah.
History is constructed by those who have the privilege of naming. And in a later passage, Gabriel Garcia Marquez makes it clear that these namers can be wrong. Although the Colonel's father pronounces ice to be, quote, the great invention of our time, we of course know that ice is neither a product of human invention nor
Shots fired, yeah.
confined to the temporal existence of humanity.
Yep.
I mean, ice predated humans by, literally most time. But since the past is colored by the memories of those who record it, it can often be laced with fantasy. In 100 Years of Solitude, Gabriel Garcia Marquez mixes mundane descriptions of real-world people and places and events with fantastical tales of supernatural beings
and this is the magical realism aspect of it.
In the Litcrit game, we call this magical realism. So back in 1949, the Cuban novelist Alejo...
Bone Cone. Is it Bone Cone time now already? Really? I feel like how is it already bone phone time? Sugars. It's over now though, isn't it? The ad. Yeah. Okay. Oh, really? Oh, my thing's not telling me that I'm even in an ad. Time flies when you're with your M. Oh. Absolutely it does. It's alright. Let me know when you can press play. I can press play again. I don't know why it's not showing up on my dashboard. I should do a bit of a bone cone though while I'm here. Shouldn't I? Head. And we're back. Just as I put another cracker in my mouth. I wish the countdown had told me. That would have been fun. All good. All right, let's pick up where we left off talking about... Very attractive. I know. 1949 Cuban novelist Alejo Carpentier is about to tell us all about how he experimented with what he called magical realism. You ready?
Tales of supernatural beings and places and actions. In the Lit game, we call this magical realism. So back in 1949, the Cuban novelist Alejo Carpentier began to experiment with what he called lo real maravilloso, marvelous realism in English. And literary critics have argued that integrating the logic of the visible world with magical elements provides a way for writers from colonized parts of the world to make sense of multiple realities. It allows writers to tell stories from the perspective of both the colonizers and the colonized. And Latin America has produced a lot of magical realism.
So I find this really, really interesting whenever he talks about it. Hang on, let's just re-listen to that again.
Realism in English. And literary critics have argued that integrating the logic of the visible world with magical elements provides a way for writers from colonized parts of the world to make sense of multiple realities. It allows writers to tell stories from the perspective of both the colonizers.
And I talk about this a lot. I know I talk about this a lot, the way that we are living in two different worlds and two different societies constantly, because that is how it feels. Like it always feels like you've got a foot in two worlds, because you are operating, you know, on a different, in a different way, I suppose. Like you're operating, your lived reality looks very different from what you're told everyone else's does, I guess. Anyway.
And the colonized. And Latin America has produced a lot of magical realist writers, including Isabel Allende from Chile, Jorge Amado from Brazil, Miguel Angel Asturias Rosales from Guatemala, Jorge Luis Borges and Julio Cortázar from Argentina, and Arturo Uslar Pietri from Venezuela, among many others. Works of magical realism do away with a lot of the stuff readers expect from novels, all that stodgy stuff like exposition and linear time structure and certainty. They're all out the window. And
that's one of the things I love about magical realism as well, is that there's none of that explanation, like expository text. It's very much like you pick it up as you go. Oh, I also got a letter from the Stradler this morning saying they're going to sue me. Oh, fuck that. No. No. Shit that off. No. No. My friend Patry is going to die. Good to hear it. You're all over it. You saw Ed. Saw Ed, love.
and their narrators often describe fantastical elements in a matter-of-fact tone. And by situating these fantastical elements in a real-world setting, they kind of subvert existing power structures and also remind us as readers that we have a role in creating meaning, right? A novel that you read exists primarily, for you at least, in your mind. And
I think one of the things as well, one of the reasons that fantastical realism played such a part in Marquez's writing for sure was because of the horror that he was experiencing, that he was writing about. Having the magical realist perspective to be able to frame it through, I think makes the material a lot more approachable for both a reader and from the creative perspective, you know? Nope, not next week. Yep. Yeah, I am having very bad gas. It is causing me some problems. I'm in a little bit of pain. It's fine.
right in the first line, Garcia Marquez undermines the notion of linear time and also certain conventions of exposition. And as for the rest of that stuff,
Probably the lunch beans. It is probably the lunch beans. Less immediately confrontational, you mean? Yeah, but even I think from a perspective of trauma, it's a lot easier to write about trauma and have trauma be perceived when it's not coming directly at you. Like I always think about Never Let Me Go. Lovely novel written Japanese author. I can never remember his name when I go to quote it. But as I've never seen the movie, but as you read that novel, as you are reading through it, you become very aware of this information. It's sort of revealed to you in such a gradual way that you accept it as being true before you're told what it is. So you know it and accept it and kind of go, oh yeah, you know, before, yeah. I don't know where I was going with that thought. Like a step removed from reality. Yeah, it's like a step removed from reality, and it's this revealing of horror unfurled in a way that makes it makes you less inclined to just shut it and move away, you know? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly like that. Still relatable and approachable, not immediately, oh fuck, it's this world. Absolutely. But still you're able to understand how these people are dealing with really real traumas and really real issues while they're living in a town that's in this magical jungle where flowers fall from the sky like snow, you know? Because there's a girl in the town who is like really deeply, horrifically depressed and can't escape it. You know, there's all these people feel so trapped in so many different ways. And even the main character, I shouldn't say the main character, the father figure we follow in the beginning, who's trying to find and do all these inventions and trying to do and create all this cool stuff, you get the feeling that he's one of those guys who's like, you know, Phil, like Tommy's dad in Rugrats. Not Phil, sorry, Stu. Tommy's dad in Rugrats. He's an inventor and he's always trying things, but you get the idea that he is just desperate and like just a little bit on edge all the time. You know Tommy Little's dad from Rugrats? That's who Gabriel Garcia Marquez's main character, like the father figure that you first sort of follow. That's who it feels like. Like he seems to have this really interesting hobby, but it almost feels like this desperate, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's just that I'm reading into it because of all my fucking trauma, but it really does. Yeah, neurotic. It's a little bit neurotic. It's got this, I don't know. It's almost like desperation's got a smell to it. It's got a feel to it, the vibe of the thing.
His narrator describes fantastical events, personality traits, and paranormal or mythological beings as if they're normal throughout the novel.
Yeah.
Let's go to the thought bubble. For instance, there's a plague of insomnia whose most terrifying symptom is, quote, not the impossibility of sleeping, for the body did not feel any fatigue at all, but its inexorable evolution toward a more critical manifestation, a loss of memory. There's the, quote, light rain of tiny yellow flowers that falls after Jose Arcadio Buendia dies, and which,
Yeah.
quote, covered the roofs and blocked the doors and smothered the animals who slept outdoors.
Yeah.
The deluge, which begins after a massacre and lasts for nearly 5 years, uproots banana groves and leaves the town in ruins. And fantastical characters inhabit Macondo, including Melquiades, the taciturn Armenian gypsy who haunts the Buendia family because he could not bear the solitude of death, and Rebecca, who, quote, liked to eat the damp earth of the courtyard and the cake of whitewash that she picked.
Yeah, very strong themes of inescapability. Very, very strong themes of inescapability. Absolutely. Absolutely.
The walls with her nails. Father Nicanor offers, quote, undeniable proof of the infinite power of God by repeating demonstrations of levitation by means of chocolate. And then there's Jose Arcadio Buendia, who, quote, during his prolonged stay under the chestnut tree, developed the faculty of being able to increase his weight at will. Ursula, upon losing her eyesight, cultivates such clairvoyance that for the first time she saw clearly the truth that her busy life in former times had prevented her from seeing. The narrator describes fantastical events and characters in a matter of fact.
So the very one of the reasons that I think the very matter of fact tone works so well in this book as well, because I was going to talk about the what do you call it? I forgot about Rebecca, who ate the dirt and the side of the walls. But oh, I forgot what I was saying. I completely lost my train of thought. What was I saying? My brain just stopped then. Let me go back a little bit and see if I can. Let's go back a little bit. Oh, the matter of factness with in which he describes things. I've always felt that that's a very it always looked a little bit like that resignation that you get in adulthood as well, where you just accept things as being what they are without any question, without any curiosity whatsoever. Because in the beginning of the novel, he and his father bond over their curiosity. But then as things progress and the world gets stranger and you have less and less of that curiosity, because you did have some of it in the beginning, you kind of do notice that it's missing a little bit. So he describes these magical events happening as if they're just very matter of fact, like ho-hum, like you wouldn't even really notice them happening. And there's no kind of... There's no curiosity to it. There's no exploration. There's no... So, for example, in the beginning, when... he was talking about ice. In the beginning when he's talking about ice and he says, remember the day his father took him to discover ice. Ice is not magical. Ice is just, like, it's very realistic. They treat it like it's magical. And he's really curious about it and he asks lots of questions about it. When flowers are falling from the sky to the point that they become a flood that blocks out the light, there's no curiosity there. Like, that's an old man's acceptance that sometimes just stuff gets shit. Like... yeah, like, something that happens in adulthood, but I think something that more happens with trauma, I suppose, with adulthood. Okay. Cup of tea? Oh, I finally got it. Oh, that was annoying me. Oh, and I finally got it. Oh, I cannot tell you how much that was annoying me. Oh, lordy law. I don't know if that's just like me reading into it too much, though. That could just be me reading into it too much. Oh, that was annoying, and I cannot. I'm so glad I got that out. Oh, flippin' help. Yeah, like that, exactly. Resignation. Resignation's a good word for it. Yeah, yep, exactly. Exactly. Ooh! Now, let's finish watching the rest of this.
Ursula, upon losing her eyesight, cultivates such clairvoyance that for the first time she saw clearly the truth that her busy life
And
in
then-
former times had prevented her from seeing. The narrator describes
We'll see how we
fantastical
go.
events and characters in a matter-of-fact tone. I mean,
I don't know if
consider
anyone
the
else is going to
thread
show
of
up. Everyone was so
blood, which
excited this
defies
afternoon, but I
convention
haven't
and
seen
logic and
anybody
gravity.
else.
After leaving the gunshot wound in Jose Arcadio's head, this thread of blood runs through the map of Macondo and through the Buendia house. Thanks, Thought Bubble. So this straightforward tone the narrator uses to talk about violence continues throughout the novel.
So hang on, I want to go
There's
back
the
and rehear that again because I talked through all that,
blood,
sorry.
Which defines fantastical events and characters in a matter-of-fact tone. I mean, consider the thread of blood, which defies convention and logic and gravity. After leaving the
Yeah.
gunshot wound in Jose Arcadio's head, this thread of blood runs through the map of Macondo and through the Buendia house. Thanks, Thought Bubble. So this straightforward tone the narrator uses to talk about violence continues throughout the novel. There's the electrified chicken yard that surrounds the banana company's compound, the hired assassins that guard its gates, the silence that occurs before soldiers open fire on 3,000 men, women, and children. This method of normalizing violence is in many ways a powerful critique of colonial and post-colonial power structures, which we'll talk about next week. But for now, I just want to go back to how Garcia Marquez reminds the reader of their...
So, you got a Pepsi Fairy again. I do have a Pepsi Fairy again. Just popped in for a visit. But they're gonna go home. Pepsi Fairy's gonna go home. Thanks, Pepsi Fairy. You didn't want to eat? Like, I can't eat all of that. There might be some hummus or something in there. Oh. No, this is a different. This is a different Pepsi Fairy. This is a different Pepsi Fairy. Not that kind of Pepsi Fairy. As I said, just a friend who's very shy. A very shy Pepsi Fairy.
Their role in creating meaning. So Garcia Marquez includes in the novel a piece of enigmatic literature, the predictions that Melquiades, the dead gypsy, has written in Sanskrit on crumbling parchments. Melquiades couldn't bear the solitude of death and so returned to the Buendia's house, and here he wrote prophecies which, quote, when read aloud were like encyclicals being chanted, but he refused to translate the meaning of his prophecies. And he explained to one of the Aurelianos, no one must know the parchment's meaning until he has reached 100 years of age. And we later learned that this 100 years doesn't refer to the lifespan of individuals, though. Instead, it refers to the parchments themselves. Melquiades explains that it's only when the parchments become 100 years old that they can be deciphered. But Aureliano still wants to read them, so desperate to decipher the text, he learns to translate from Sanskrit into Spanish. And when he discovers that the parchments contain, quote, predictions and coded lines of poetry, he comes up with a complicated system to decode them. And this decoding is further complicated by the fact that Melquiades has not arranged the story, quote, in the order of man's conventional time, but had concentrated a century of daily episodes in such a way that they coexisted in one instant. Which is precisely, of course, the book that we are reading. We, too, are reading a translated book that's filled with...
Yeah. Yeah. So, an author who plays with this kind of idea about time and place and space, who's probably more of a more modern reader, would be Mark. Oh, you were contemplating publishing your poetry. Yes, I think you should definitely look into that. I'll put it up there. Thank you, Pepsi Fairy. You gonna be all right? Do you want to take a hot chocolate for the walk? Keep you warm. Okay. I think you should. Keep you warm, eh? Keep me company. Keep me company in the evenings sometimes. You know, it's nice to talk to, such to be able to sit and chill sometimes. Yeah. And watch TV with another person. You know. Yeah, exactly. Company. Well, it was more, I wasn't sure if anyone else was going to show up for book club tonight. And I was like, it's going to be really embarrassing if no one shows up to talk about this book with me. So, do you want to come and hang for a bit and see if anyone shows up? But, yeah, people showed up. So, thanks. People. Just you. Other people? Georgie was here too. Georgie might have left screaming when she realised what we were talking about. But yeah. See ya. Travel safe. I'll let you know if that parcel arrives tomorrow too. See ya. Alright, let's hit play. Let's hit play on this.
Poetry, one that describes fantastical events and defies conventional notions of time. But there's a significant difference between Aureliano's reading process and ours. As Aureliano nears the end of the parchments, the wind outside turns into a biblical hurricane
so it's
that
the
will
end
wipe
of
out
time
Macondo,
itself.
its inhabitants, and their memories. There is no hope of Aureliano ever acting on what he learns. This information, quote, was unrepeatable since time immemorial and forevermore because races condemned to 100 years of solitude did not have a second opportunity on Earth. But of course, my copy of 100 Years of Solitude did not self-destruct when I reached the last line. There was no hurricane, and unlike Aureliano, I survived reading. And this surviving, while definitely advisable, presents some ethical questions. I mean, if history is as provisional as Gabriel Garcia Marquez argues, how should we respond to history in general? Is it even possible to fight the collective amnesia and narrow storytelling that allows human beings to make the same mistakes generation after generation? Is it possible for human...
Yeah, don't be self-deprecating. Oh, yeah, no, you're not an attention slut. You're our favourite slut, but you're not an attention slut. Definitely not. Definitely not. But you'll always be our favourite slut. Always,
human beings to resist the trap of nostalgia that so often keeps us from moving forward? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, another thing about 100 Years of Solitude that makes it different and special is that it is not, at least in a traditional sense, hopeful.
No,
instead, it endeavors
not.
to tell the kinds of truths that so-called realism can't touch. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. Crash Course is filmed in the Chad and Stacey Emmingholt studio here in Indianapolis, and it's made by all of these lovely people, and it's possible because of your support on Patreon.
So, there used to be another one before Patreon. Does anyone remember that? So about sluts. So there you go. So one thing that I do find interesting though about this particular text as well is that it's often it's not a particularly positive story, that's for true. But it doesn't feel sad when you're reading it necessarily. You know, I wouldn't say so anyway. Can you show me what you were taught was the sign for purple, though? Because seemingly the one they're teaching here in Perth is the sign I was taught for sex workers. I can't think. Pink, red, wild fucking tangent. Yeah, tell me about it. I can't think. Honestly, cannot for the life of me think. Oh yeah, no, I hear ya. When you get a thought and you know it won't let you go. You have to. You got to get it out. You definitely got to get it out. So I don't think anybody else is going to show. And that was all I had to say on the book. Did anybody else have any thoughts or comments on the book? Nah. Nah. None more thus far? None more thus far? I was going to say I'm the only one as well on I'm the only one on the Discord as well, so in the bi-monthly book chats channel, which has gone live specifically for this so that we can have a chat. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Not the end of the world. Yeah. There you go. People being flaky, and it's fine. It's book club. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. You did show up. You did show up, and you're a legend. I would like it if they showed up, but I can understand that things happened and maybe people didn't. So all good. I'm probably going to sign off though because I have nothing else to say about the book, and I didn't really have anything else prepared because others would be to talk about the book, and I thought others would be talking a lot more. Like I've already been talking today. I'm kind of glad I did a live stream today, though, to be able to chat to everybody. You know? No, I do not have the mental capacity for that kind of a chat right now. Absolutely not. My brain would be absolutely fried. What about, though, what if maybe tomorrow, I'm trying to think what time tomorrow. Yeah, what if I give you a call tomorrow and we can have a chat? Oh, that's why I said at some point. Yeah, absolutely. So my autistic brain goes into we need to do it right now. We have to do it right this second. Like that's just my autism. Being like, oh, right this second doesn't work for me, but I'm sure we could work something out. Yeah. Yeah, no problems. Yeah, definitely. Oh, I would love for you to come down and have a visit. I'm just having a look at my door frame, just being like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. There's only one corner that might be a problem, and it's a corner for me anyway. It's a corner for everybody. It just lives there. Well, I mean, it's my kid's craft corner. So it just lives there as a shrine to their lovely messes. Tomorrow after 3 would work probably. Cool bananas. Cool bananas. It is always harder around that time just because the kids will be home. So it might not necessarily be the longest chat in the world because you know what they're like. Your Monday appointment got rescheduled. For the fitting. Fair cop. Fair cop, fair cop. But yes. Oh, if you could do before 10. Emery, are you expecting me to be awake out of bed and coherent before 10 a.m.? What is this? What is this? Excuse me. Excuse me. After 3 has an end time of like 2 a.m. Okay, yeah. No, we could do that. Oh! So... Gosh. My stomach is so sore. Duh. Far out. Why is it doing this to me? No end time works for me as well. Sorry, my brain. Should I aim for like 8:30 then? Let me let me see how we go. Tomorrow I will. Tomorrow morning, once I've worked out, because I have to go. Of course, yeah. I forgot to get cat food at the shop the other day, and now I have none, and I've got to go out to where I get the cat food from, which I know doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but it's not like it's all the way. Like I've got to go all the way through town to the other side. So like on the other side of town, the opposite way that I am. Do you know what I mean? Anyway. Oh, what's the best Australian song of the year? Here we go. Sorry, I'm so flat right now, but I am so tired. Yes, it's a big trip. Oh, look at them little minotaurs. They're so gorgeous. Peach PRC or nothing. Yes. Like a girl does, like a girl does. They could never touch like a girl does. Ah! Rush. Far out. There you go. Far out. Gotta be honest, I did not realise that he was an Aussie. Aha! If God is a woman, I've seen her. I can't help it singing that song to myself. I'm going to go pass out asleep. Thank you for coming this evening, Emery. I'm so glad that you and I could once again, you know, chill and have good times together. So great. Hopefully, we could do this again soon. Next time we got a book club, I'm definitely not going, because this is the thing I did think to myself too. I was yeah, I wasn't going to stream today because I knew I'd be too tired for tonight. Yeah. It is great. You can go yell at the slackers for slacking. I'm gonna sign off. Thank you for joining this evening, Emery. Sorry I wasn't more like next time. I honestly thought to myself though, oh, it's fine. You can stream because there'll be other people doing the chatting in book club. It won't all be you, so you won't need to be as high energy for book club. So you can still do a stream and not have to worry about being as high energy for book club. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll still stream then. Now I'm like, mistake. Oh, definitely. Definitely. I definitely didn't want to entertain the masses for sure. It was more that I thought they would be here to discuss the book that we were all reading. But, you know, we listened to John Green discuss it instead, so that's the same. How are you going this evening? What's your plans for the rest of the evening? What are you going to do? What you going to do? For sure the same? Why were you crying? Oh no. Oh no, what happened? What happened? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, right. Yeah, no problem. Okay. Oh gosh. No. Are you going to be all right this evening though? Like, can you put on have you got a comfort TV show or something you can put on to help distract you? That's always what I do when I'm feeling really down. Like when I'm feeling like I can't actually think about it right now because it's all too much, I just put a comfort show on in the background and it helps me blur it all out, you know? Oh. You can't really say don't worry and think that that's going to work. Like, I'm going to be worried, aren't I? I'm going to be worried. Yeah. I'm worried now, though. Oh, I was going to, but now you're making me not want to. Stop that, you silly thing. I'm not liking it. I'm not going to go anywhere right this second. I'm just going to wait. I got nothing else to say, but I'm just going to wait. Like, I got... Oh... All right, I'm going to sign off because I actually am going to collapse. I'm actually pretty flipping exhausted. And I made a mistake and I ate some Turkish bread and my stomach doesn't like that. So it is not reacting the best to it right now. I am, I'm going to do our little sign off and I'm going to check in with you later. And you worried me. Well, that's something. Well, that's something, isn't it? That's something. That's something. All right, we're going to do our sign out. We're going to close out for the night. I hope we're all doing okay, guys. Obviously not, but you know, it's life, isn't it? Sucks. Love you. Love you. Please see you soon. Let's have a little, let's do one of these.